Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us. As always, we'll try to keep it quick because I know you have other things to do. Just a reminder, you guys, I hope you all saw the email about the cover of the MNA convention booklet. It would be really awesome if one of you won that. So please, if you've got time, especially on these like Wednesdays and Thursdays when there's not as much work, go ahead and do that and get it sent in. We would love to have one of you win that. A couple kudos to start off with here. This is not a page, but big ups go to Paula, Mindy, and Emma for making us some new plug ads. Yay!
Oh, yay. Thank you.
We definitely needed those, so we appreciate all the work that those three put in on those. 4 pages here. This one is from Katie. Just a little more. I don't know why that weird box is there. Okay. It's a Duluth features cover. I just really liked this treatment here with the words with a little bit of the drop shadow around there. So the art was good, but not blow your socks off, and she took it and made a really nice page out of it. It's awesome work, Katie. This is Spike's page for the Forms Flood retrospective, which again was just really nice use of some text here. A nice line. I like the use of the line. Good work on lines to make it something that stands out more on the newsstand for everybody. And then I like this one that Josie did with, you know, again, something that doesn't really have, you know, it wasn't like a compelling photo or anything, but it was an eye-catching page. A little bit of use of color, which Erin's going to talk about a little more today. This line here to separate, you know, using the pull-out down here, I think it turned out really well. And for a story that's not necessarily the most exciting story any of our papers have ever run, I think it drew the reader's eye and probably got a lot of people to read this story that maybe otherwise wouldn't have.
Is that your graphic?
No, that's Troy Becker. I was
Yeah.
like before FB service credit.
Yes. Good work to Troy on the graphic. Troy's not here. And just nice treatment by Josie, so good work, team. Please keep sending your best pages. We love seeing the work that you guys are doing. You're doing really fantastic stuff. It's going to help us out come contest time to have all of those pages in there. So with that, I'll hand it over.
Oh.
Freaks me out every time. I'll hand it over to Erin. She's going to go over a few things.
Hey guys, I've just been spending a little bit of time this week looking at some pages and have seen a few things crop up that I wanted to bring up. And if I can use the keyboard again here. One thing is drop shadows, and we just found out that we can make the default more to our liking. But in the meantime, until those templates get changed, you'll see that this headline is using the InDesign default for the drop shadow, which is way too, I don't know, it's kind of excessive. It's dropping back too far behind the words, and we see this sometimes on photos too. So just a little thing here. I'm going to try and find this. Do you know where that hides?
You have it on the fair to set up the text select.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Yep, there it is.
Okay, so instead of just using your default drop shadow, go up into the effects here, hit your drop shadow, and see it's set to 9.899. Change that down to like a 3, and it just tightens that drop shadow to your text or your photo box, so it's not quite so, I don't know, it's just a little too far away looking to
Offset.
me. Yeah, it's too far offset. So if you're going to use that drop shadow, tighten it up a little bit. Like I said, we should be having that fixed on the templates soon. but until then, that should take care of it. Another thing that I've noticed is there seems to be some confusion with the difference between label heads and standing heads and when we should use them. A label head is the one here without the little line and triangle below it. This should be used when you're using it above a story with a headline. So it's great when you've got a headline that has way too many words. They're really handy on front pages. They're really handy on sports pages like this. The one with the line and the triangle is more for like your briefs packages, your courts roundups, generally things without an actual headline. I think the only exception that I can think of is on our editorial pages. Most of those have letters to the editor, our opinion, their views, something like that. Those all use this standing head with the line and triangle. But otherwise, you should be using the label head over any stories. They're handy for like city council, Park Rapids School Board, things like that are really hard to fit into a headline, so.
And that is in the pull down?
That is in, yep, it's in, you can use it as there's a style that's label head, or it's also in the library, so you can just pull that right out of the library too, so. Another little thing that, this is a pretty big deal in Wilmer, I know. The editors really hate subheads within text that are really differently weighted. So you see that I just moved a few words down, so just try and even out those lines. I know that's difficult sometimes, just depending on the words that you have to work with. You may want to add or subtract a word if you're able to, but just try and even those out some. And I would say that if you're going to have one that's longer than the other, try to make it the bottom one rather than the top one. It's just, like I said, Wilmer is a real stickler for it, but it really does, it's just one of those fine tuning things that makes a page look better, just to have those evened out a little bit.
I'm not following you. What are you
Okay.
talking about?
So right here in this text,
Mhm.
if you initially this,
Oh, I see.
What-
I understand what you're
yep,
saying now.
so, so move that word down just to even out those lines a little bit. Oops.
Yeah, and the same, several editors have pointed this out in the story on the other side of the page. See how the sports scores, each team gets their own line?
Yep.
There's room on there that it could be like Hancock 11, Ashby, and then the 8 would be on the next line. Try to make sure nothing's breaking like that.
Yeah. I've also seen some drop caps in text that have been some different sizes. Those should all be just 3 lines of text, unless you are doing a centerpiece that really calls for something more significant, that you're really doing it for effect. Keep those at 3 lines of text. When you use these tools at the top, it will just automatically size it, even if you've bumped up your text size for effect or anything like that. So just use the 3 lines. Make sure that your headlines, especially, I'm seeing this a fair amount on like 6-column heads, where we might have a 6-column head that only has like 3 or 4 words, so that you've got 2 columns of space at the end with no words in it. Please fill out this extra space here. Let's see if I can. Show you what I'm talking about here. And don't morph your photos like I just did. So if our headline ended here, please try to fill out the entire width of your headline space. I've been seeing some headlines that end 2 columns short, and it just doesn't look good. Also, do not then try to fake it by making it a centered headline. Centered headlines really should only be over your standalone photos or a centerpiece package, not over your inside stories. Inside stories also should all have bold headlines, no light heads, no italics. We almost never use italics at all, unless you're using it, again, for effect as part of a centerpiece headline. I know that some people have been using light heads, just trying to break up pages and the hierarchy of headlines, but our rule is all bold heads. So unless it's your centerpiece or a column, you should be using your bold heads. Remember, frames on your photos, unless it's a centerpiece photo that has like a headline on it. I know those are easy to forget. I know that I am guilty of forgetting them sometimes, so just try to make it a habit of shutting off all of your guides before you send off your page, and make sure that your lines are all in the right places, all of your photos have frames. Another thing I've noticed is pull quotes. Please do not change the size of the text in pull quotes. We do have 2 different sizes. This would be like tucked into a column of text, or in most instances you're just going to use the plain pull quote. There is also one with a mugshot in the library if you've got somebody's mug that you can use with your pull quote. This slightly larger one is for above headlines, so it is slightly larger, but please don't use that one inset into text. It's just too big. As Alicia said, with colored headlines, they are great in small doses. There are some designers that I've been noticing are using them an awful lot. Really think about the tone of your story, whether it should have a colored headline. I can almost not think of an instance where you would want a colored headline on a straight news story, unless it's a big centerpiece package. But even centerpiece packages are generally more of a feature style, so I think it fits with that. I've seen some on just straight like city council stories, and that just really does not fit. So please be cautious in your use of colored headlines. And I think that's it. So I've been looking through a lot of pages this week, now that we're having a little bit of downtime on a couple of days, and there are some really great designs. We are really getting our stuff together and becoming more consistent. I think we'll be working more on that, trying to get some of the newspapers more consistent, and when we as designers are working on that consistency, it really helps all of us in the group. So nice work, guys.
Anybody have any questions on any of that? Questions on anything else? All right, well, I think we're done then. And I'll go back to work. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Just in time, it's almost 4:20.